if everyone paid attention to each other. If everyone could follow their dreams a little more. That'd be good. I was saying before how pain and progress are so linked with me. To the point where I sort of feel that if I'm not experiencing pain, I'm clearly not doing anything worthwhile. Trouble with this, and like freshman year of college, for instance, my homework is not bugging me as much, not nearly as hard as it used to be. So, maybe I'm working on ideas on Udo the Wanderer. That's a fantasy story I'm trying to do. Doing, I should say. Do or do not. There is no try. Be working on that, and I'd feel this sense of shame, of worthlessness. How dare you do something which doesn't hurt? That was the essential logic, you could, so to speak, in my brain, in my mind, in my heart. The story, Udo the Wanderer, is about, or inspired by, my worst experiences in high school. It's about someone who's been shunned and exiled. And the major theme of the story, or one of the themes, is that no, actually, he, the individual, is right. Not perfect, by any stretch of the imagination, but better than the organization that threw him out, that tries to kill him. And of course, with the killing, we were obviously exaggerating my own experiences in high school. I've never faced bodily harm. I've had plenty of emotional harm. In any case, I'm writing a story about a guy who learns of his own self-worth and learns it in terms of the real truth as opposed to what the Federation tells him. I'm writing this story, and simultaneously I feel ashamed that I'm not doing what school tells me to do. I realized the incredible irony of this. It's not even like I had a whole lot of homework that day, you know. Like, no. In fact, I don't think I really had any homework that particular day when I came to the realization of this irony. But just the fact that, writing the Udo story doesn't make me suffer, that screwed with my head. It was like, I have to be suffering, otherwise I'm worthless. That's what I had in my head. And I had this other idea, also connected, that not only that I ought to suffer if I'm doing anything worthwhile, but if I'm doing anything worthwhile, we will call suffering. And in that slightly different phrasing of it, what I mean to say is that when I come, to greater conception that, no, the creative stuff is worthwhile, I ought to do it, then there's a thought of, no, wait, don't do it, it'll be painful. Because I'm thinking in the back of my head, worthwhile, therefore painful. Not that the school was worthwhile in the first place, really. Not to the extent that I took it. Crazy amounts of AP classes and whatnot. But it was told it was worthwhile. Acted as though it were worthwhile. So then it becomes worthwhile, things are painful. Then I come to the creativity, and that's worthwhile. Now that apparently will be painful, so don't do that. The twistedness of the heart. throughout all of this, I've been continuing my creative stuff. I have a whole little stack of papers, all folded up and written on every possible side of little notes and little things. Always working on 100 different ideas at once, just a fragment of a sentence here and a fragment there and a fragment there. But I've come upon what I've recently termed the method question. I've discussed it before. Pretty sure I have. Methods of creation, that video today. Well, I'll look it up and find out. The question is, considering the fact that I do things in a sort of massively multi-parallel way, just dozens of different ideas, I write a little bit of this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, random. Why is that? I've known for a long time that for some degree, that's simply being chaotic. That's, you write whatever you're inspired on at any given moment. That's probably the most efficient way to do these things. And if I think that way, and it's sort of odd to different people, like, well, maybe it works for me. But I've also thought this a little more and more as time comes by, that I'm also afraid. Mental breaks, as I said a while ago. I think maybe I fritter around on the edges of my possibilities, my potential. I allow myself only small glimpses of what I love. It's amazing how twisted things can be. I've already made a video called "You Can Make Stuff Up." And it's about basically just have faith in yourself and make stuff up in your creative world, in your fictional world thing, and it'll work. It's like Tinker Toys, just like, okay, we're gonna put this together and this and this and this and this, and yeah, you could mess things up, I suppose. You can always change it. You can always change it later. In the meantime, in the meantime, there's so much you can do. I've made that video, not even just said it to myself, but I've said it to the rest of the world. And then I have trouble fully believing it. Okay, so this character does this thing, and then I made a video called Baka Desne. It's an idea for like a cartoon or comic book sort of thing, which I can't really draw, but A, I could possibly learn, and B, there's other people I know who could help. We'll get to that in a moment, I suppose. In any case, idea for a cartoon thing about this crazy guy in Japan, and it's funny, and it teaches you Japanese at some point. And recently, the last couple of weeks, I've happened to find, got it with me, a couple of people who like the idea, who care about the idea. I've spoken of all the times I was writing stuff and no one seemed to pay attention. You get to the point where you assume no one will pay attention. I've noted that as a bad habit with me, that even when someone is paying attention, I'll generally assume they're not. So it's hard to know exactly how much attention is being given to me. I have all these biases in my head.